morning to everyone.
Ok. Atunci propun să începem webinarul. Voi trece doar în limba engleză să salut toți participanții și profesorul și după aia intrăm în prezentarea propriu-zisă. Good morning. Good morning, Lucian, colleagues from Multipoint.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you for coming with us today, trying to do a very good webinar in this heavy condition, unfortunately, and hopes with our partnership we will do good things in Moldova as well. We'll try to do a great business together. I will switch first how we set up with Lucian in Romanian to be closely to our customers or potential customers, to our market, and after we will have your time to present in English. Thank you.
Okay.
Lucian, I will switch in Romanian, okay?
Yeah.
Good. Stimați participanți, bună ziua! Mă bucur că din nou reușim să facem un webinar interesant în ceea ce privește domeniul de securitate informațională și împreună cu colegii de la Multipoint am făcut un parteneriat și chiar, Lucian, dacă îmi permiți, aș putea să și lansez oficial că parteneriatul nostru presupune promovarea multor soluții de securitate și pe piața Republicii Moldova, cele care se află în portofoliu Multipoint. Și una din soluții cu care am zis să începem pe piață este soluția de la SealPath, care are ca și scop protejarea sau protecția documentelor, dar nu neapărat a informațiilor, documentelor care pleacă în afara instituției, organizației sau companiei. Așa că focusul la webinarul de astăzi va fi pe partea de cum putem proteja documentele cu care lucrăm noi zi de zi, cum putem securiza și cripta acele documente trimise prin mai multe canale, cum ar fi, nu știu, mail, USB, cloud sau șerite cu altcineva. Acum, lucrând de la distanță, avem cumva riscul de a pierde, în general, informația în așa fel ca nu doar destinatarul să primească acea informație, dar să o primească și o altă terță persoană. Așa că, reieșind din aceste, hai să zic, riscuri, compania noastră Context Systems, fiind focusată în domeniul securității informaționale, am zis să venim cu o soluție cât mai aproape de necesitatea dumneavoastră, pentru că cu toții, practic, suntem martori și avem provocări în partea de a securiza cât mai bine documentele cu care manipulăm. Drept urmare, astăzi, împreună cu domnul Lucian Chețe, Sales Manager la Multipoint Group, și cu Rui Bernardino, vom face o prezentare a soluției SealPath, inclusiv și o prezentare demo. Nu vom intra foarte adânc tehnic, însă vrem ca să vedeți exact ce presupune produsul și cum vă poate ajuta în lucru de zi cu zi în cadrul organizației în care activați. Înainte de a oferi cuvântul domnului Chețe sau lui Lucian, cred că o să-i trecem la pertul, că e mai ușor să comunicăm. Luciane, vreau doar să mai fac un anunț, și anume că la sfârșitul evenimentului am pregătit o surpriză pentru toți participanții, și anume vom oferi un token care are ca și scop, deci va fi un premium, da, la sfârșit. Premiumul se va oferi pentru cel mai activ participant sau pentru cele mai bune întrebări. Premiumul va fi oferit de către Lucian, adică vreau să fiu imparțial, pentru că cu o parte din cei care deja sunt participanți la webinar ne cunoaștem și atunci vreau să fiu imparțial și o să rog pe Lucian să ofere acel premiu. Premiul costă, cum am zis, într-un token care oferă posibilitatea să vă autentificați direct de pe telefon sau PC fără să mai introduceți o parolă. Da? Este un token gen NFC, da, care îl puneți în telefon sau în telefon și automat vă puteți autentifica în orice aplicație. La sfârșit, când o să facă Lucian alegeri, o să vă arăt exact în ce costă produsul. Luciane, cam asta a fost partea mea. Vreau să vă mulțumesc încă o dată pentru parteneriat și sper să fie într-un ceas bun și prima prezentare cu voi pe Moldova.
Mulțumesc, Andrian, de introducere. O să te rog să oprești și
Da.
Da, ca să pot și eu să...
Da, sigur.
Între timp, bună dimineața tuturor. Vă mulțumim că ați, într-un număr așa mare, participați la această primă prezentare. Ce vreau să vă spun despre noi? Compania Multipoint este un value-added distribuitor care oferă soluții de securitate și parte de networking security și internet security pentru o grămadă de mai multe țări. Da? Este înființată încă din 2009 în Israel de către Ricardo Resnick, care este și CEO-ul companiei. Avem sedii în mai multe țări, după cum vă ziceam, în România, în Grecia, în Dubai, în Cipru, în Malta și prin parteneriatul cu Inhecom, da? Avem prezență inclusiv în Italia, Spania și Portugalia. Nu suntem un simplu cel care vrem să oferim doar împreună cu vendorii noi să oferim pur și simplu așa zise licențe și să oferim soluția de securitate. Încercăm împreună cu vendorii să vă oferim și suportul necesar atât prin partenerii care avem în toată această regiune, cât și împreună cu vendorii noștri, pentru a crea un add-on soluțiilor furnizate de către noi. Ca să vă fac un briefing a ceea ce furnizăm noi, avem soluții de la data security și auditing, da, de la Netwix, Varonis, Repite, Minerai, până la soluții de VM, cu unul dintre cei mai importanți player pe piață, Tenable, Qualys, soluții de patch management, da, și inventory, Big Fix, soluții de NDR, da, ExtraFox și AT&T Security, da, soluții de PAM și Identity and Access Management, Tycotic, OneLogin și Ubico, despre care vă zicea și Andrian că va fi un mic premiu, da, soluții de Network Security, soluții de monitoring, da, pentru partea de security, da, soluții de encryption, da, prin Self-Test Network, da, soluții de storage, da, acolo avem Data Locker și iStorage, soluție de suport pe partea de acces pentru suport AnyDesk și Real VNC, soluții de backup, da, soluții de forensis, și pe urmă avem o grămadă de soluții care le considerăm undeva de nișă, de la endpoint security, da, până la partea de mobile security, da, cum este Zimperium, da, soluții cum este Trapix. Ceea ce încercăm noi, cum v-am spus, să facem împreună cu partenerii noștri de peste tot, să creăm un add-on vendorilor noștri. Avem echipă de suport și împreună cu partenerii cred că clienților finale vom oferi cea mai bună soluție și cele mai bune, pe cele mai bune tehnologii care le avem. Astăzi, cum a zis și Andrian, o să vă facem o prezentare și demo, care va include și demo a soluției SealPath, și cred că mulți dintre voi veți vrea inclusiv să testați, da? Toate soluțiile se pot face și demo-uri și se pot face și teste. ca să fiți mulțumiți și să fiți hotărât pe soluția care o veți adopta. Atâta despre companie. Pe noi ne găsiți pe site-ul companiei, pe Multipoint. Da? Aveți aici datele mele de contact. Vă mulțumesc și o să-i dau cuvântul lui Rui. Rui, you are the showman.
Hey, thank you very much. Let me start by sharing my screen. I do apologize for not speaking Romanian, although I'm Portuguese.
It's not too late to teach.
No, Portuguese is actually we have the same origin, right? It's Latin language, so I do understand some words, at least quite a few. So it's nice.
actually, the Romanian language is very close with Portuguese.
To Italian, and
no, most with Portuguese than Italian. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We do have some. I do understand some of the stuff that you said, so it's kind of fun. But anyway, we better speak in English. I'm sorry for this. And well, I'm Rui Bernardino, by our kind introduction. I'm pre-sales for SealPath. And I'll try to show you what SealPath does, what kind of use cases we try to cover, and please let me have your questions, and I hope we can engage you in a more personalized demo and go through your use cases in the future soon. So without further ado, let's start. Okay, so why do our companies, why do we invest in security? Are we really concerned with network devices and servers and stuff like that? No, our concern, I mean, from a client point of view, our concern is with our data. We want to protect our data, our information, because nowadays that's what's important. I mean, not the servers or the mobiles, the data that resides inside them, that's what's important. And we do lose data, valuable data. I'm just going through some of the well-known examples. Here, this one with Tesla, where an employee extracts a bunch of data, ended up in not exactly direct loss, but indirect loss, because there was intellectual property, research and development stuff that reached the wrong recipients. Also, this insurance company, in this case, it wasn't nothing from the inside, but actually the exfiltration happened through a partner. We have this scenario in many of our companies. Our companies have strong policies, have all the good stuff that tries to protect the data, but in the end, we rely on external parties, and that's where the exfiltration occurs. Another example, Mitsubishi, they got hacked, and during that hack, they got a bunch of data that represented a huge loss, especially for Mitsubishi that works with government organizations. Another very common use case, right? We start typing an email to someone, we start typing the name, we don't notice that's the wrong person, and there it goes. Okay, we send the email, and there goes that very important data with whatever, right? This happens to everyone. I mean, it happened to me for sure. Another very common example, an employee that left the company and took the data. Who from all of us did not, when we left some company, collected some of the documents that we had. Well, let me just take this just in case. But in some scenarios, I mean, we are all honest persons, but sometimes we know that that's not the case, right? There are people that take out the data. That data contains important information for our companies, and there's no control over that, right? We just fill up a few terabytes on an hard disk, and there it goes. Okay, there goes all the company data and all the important information that our companies have. In this specific one, we have this with Waymo, and it represented an estimated almost $250,000 loss. So it's a huge amount of money that we have here. our traditional approach to security is always by layers, right? We think about layers. We think about policies. We think about the perimeter. We think about applications, and this layered approach. I mean, it is effective. I'm not trying. We are not here to make a completely to impose a completely new methods or a completely new approach, but our focus here is on data. Okay, we don't really are not that much concerned with the perimeter security or physical security. We are much more concerned about the data, securing the data, which is the last line of defense for our corporate information. So just a quick overview. Even if we have all these mechanisms that we've seen before, I mean, most of our companies at some point have some reliance on external entities, right? For example, banks usually have resort to mailing companies to send stuff to their clients, not just mailings, but all the important information. Some of our companies rely on external lawyers to go through legal processes. I mean, all the companies have some reliance on external entities. And with the cloud adoption, this is becoming more important every day. And when we share data with external entities, we lose our security policies, our mechanisms, the investment that we did in awareness and firewalls and all that stuff. It doesn't play well with external entities, and that's the kind of the point here. Because in today's world, we don't have this year-old paradigm of what is internal and what is external. We cannot simply trust on internal stuff, and we cannot either untrust external stuff, especially nowadays with this pandemic scenario where we have so many people working from home, and in many companies, at least as I'm aware, in many companies, this push to remote work actually went very fast. There was no infrastructure. Our companies weren't prepared to, in a couple of days, send everybody home and keep on working as they did. So the perimeter doesn't exist. And that's the bottom line. We cannot rely on our internal network and build a wall around our company's data. That doesn't work anymore because everyone is working from home. We are using cloud services. We are connecting to the internal network using VPN and RDP and all different protocols. So this is a very important subject, that there is no network perimeter as it was before. Another important, common and very it happens a lot in the recent weeks and months and years, the exfiltration of data. This is one of the types of ransomware. In this specific case, what happened, it was that someone took some information from an hospital and asked for a ransom. We've heard many cases like this one, okay? I read an article about some company in UK that got extorted something like 10 million pounds. And in the end, after being extorted, they lost the data again and were extorted again. And this is the kind of thing that it's really hard to prevent if you don't take the proper measures. After the data leaves your company, after the data leaves your security perimeter, everything is out of control, and this can represent huge loss, not just in reputation but also in compliance. We have GDPR in Europe. We have our all other different compliance bodies that affect specific industries, and this is of huge importance to all our companies. So what happens when the current security measures are not enough? So yeah, we have the firewalls, and I mean, firewalls are great, and we all know that firewalls are necessary for all companies and whatnot, and they do block out some of the hackers and hacking stuff. But in the end, when the information leaves this safe perimeter, when the information is sent to someone that is working on the outside, be it an internal employee or an external partner, the firewalls aren't effective. So the firewall will not stop this from happening. Then we have classic encryption. Classic encryption is it's a huge technology, and of course SealPath is based around classic encryption. But in the end, the way that encryption works, in most examples, or the most common ones like PGP, SMIME, what you get, or password protection in most scenarios, what you get is a method to send data. Yes, it is sent securely, but the way that it is implemented is, I mean, PGP, for example, has been around for more than 20 years and very few people use it. SMIME is available on all email clients and very few people use it because it is complex, requires setting up certificates and all that stuff. Okay, and if that's not enough, then we have the biggest problem with security, with encryption, is that, okay, I share this document with my recipient, I have the certificates, everything is protected using AES, blah blah blah, and that's all very good. But in the end, when you send the file to that person, once the person opens the file, you lose control again. So they can do whatever they want with that information. Then we have the DLPs. DLPs are great solutions. We integrate with several DLPs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not demoting DLP solution by itself, but and the DLPs are great at blocking information. I've worked with DLP products in the past, and they have incredible mechanisms to detect data and to protect it and apply policies and all that. But they are they are sometimes a very complex solution to set up, and they have the same kind of problem, the same kind of limitations. They work on a perimeter. They have that perimeter that they control, but everything that leaves that perimeter, well, and then it is gone. The control is gone. Then we have CASBs, cloud access and security brokers, which I like to wrap it up as a DLP for the cloud. Well, they are also great. I mean, they have the same kind of mechanisms, but in the end, the problem is kind of the same. We have every day. I mean, when I worked with this my previous job, we also had a CASB solution, and they worked great with Office 365, Google Apps, and all those very well-known applications. But they had this report that one could generate that would show what is what they called it, shadow IT, which is the IT that the users engage into without requesting IT. Say, for example, some user uses, I don't know, Gmail, whatever, without being sanctioned by the company. And the amount of shadow IT usage is huge. I mean, it's incredible how many companies don't know what their users are doing with their data. And of course, we have people that the information that simply is out of the perimeter on the CASB, and that's the same kind of problem that we have with DLP. So all these different vectors or possible risks are not addressed by these solutions. So just to wrap up, I'm sorry for taking this long. So what is SealPath? And this is the slide that kind of sums up before we jump into our presentation. We start by being able to protect any kind of information. Okay, we do have some formats that are better supported, but we can protect any kind of information. Okay, and that's the most important one. Then we add the layer of encryption. We use a standard encryption algorithm that's been around for quite some time. It was developed by Microsoft, so the encryption technology isn't developed by SealPath. We simply leverage on an existing and well-known and well-supported technology for encryption. To this, we have add the possibility to remotely control the data. So if we share a document with someone, and at some point we want to change the permissions or restrict the access or block or whatever, we can do it remotely without being required any re-upload of the data, and regardless where the data resides. Okay, this is a very important. And last but not least, we get audit. We get audit information, meaning we know when someone has opened the document. We know when someone has tried to access the document from the wrong network. We have all that audit information. You can send the document to one of your customers and then check if they read it. Okay, that's the kind of stuff that we can do, and it is quite awesome. And I urgently ask you to get in touch with us, because this technology is very straightforward and in very nice in terms of what you can do. Okay, so and how we do this? We work with something called circles of trust or policies. These policies define the scope for the policy. Say that I want to have share some information within the management team. I can create a policy for the management team and protect everything according to that policy, so it remains within the circle of the scope of the management team. We can apply protections based on, for example, classification. If you already have a classification policy, or if you have a classification product, we can apply that extra mile, the last mile of protecting the data, and not just being something that is on paper and that really doesn't do that much. Okay, we can create circles of trust for our customers, for departments. I mean, the circles of the policies is whatever makes sense within the context of your company. So in the end, we get secure transfer. The data can be transferred securely without any concern. So if you share someone with an external entity, you know that nobody will eavesdrop on the data, because only authorized people will be able to access the data. And this means that you can share information securely. If you want to share, say, getting back to that example of a lawyer, you can send that lawyer a document, allow him to edit the file, but not allow him to print or to copy stuff into another file. That kind of power is immense. You can share a document, a Word file or Excel or whatever, or PDF or whatever. You can share a document with that external partner and be ensured that they will not fool around with that data. They will do whatever you want, whatever your company wants to do. And this allows secure collaboration. We are not just limited to sharing snippets or small parts of the document. We can share the whole document and be ensured that the document will be protected. Okay. So, well, perhaps this is the time to jump into our demo. And okay, let's just a quick move forward here. So, because I want to wrap up this. So we have two options regarding deployment. Just going to the more practical aspect of this. We support on-premises deployment for companies that want to retain full control over all the keys that are necessary to implement this system. And we have a cloud SaaS offering, which is I mean, based on our infrastructure. Both can be integrated with Active Directory. I will talk about a little bit about this in a second. But in any scenario, SealPath does not store the documents. We are not talking about a solution where the documents are sent to some portal and the users need to log in order to access the documents. That's not what we're talking about, and I'll show you in a demo. But in any scenario, in any of these two options to deploy, there's no storage of the documents. Only keys are exchanged within this system. Okay, so this is the integrations that we have. Don't have that much time, so let's move forward. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is the point of view of a user. Okay, I need to emphasize this because we have other points of view. Okay, we have the admin point of view, we have the automated point of view using DLPS or using automatic protection in file servers. There's a bunch of stuff around there, but let me just show you the point of view of an end user, and mention that we do have integrations with other solutions and other ways to approach a product. So here on this we call this the SealPath desktop. This is the component that is installed onto the power users, the ones that are going to protect, the ones that are going to define the policies. And as I mentioned, I'm working here as Mark Aldrin, and I'm going to do something very simple, which is editing a policy. Okay, policy can be applied to a project, can be applied to whatever. So here, this one is applied to some mock project called ARC. Okay, here I have what are the permissions that are available or that are enforced with this policy. Say I want to add Rui Bernardino. Okay, and for Rui Bernardino, I want to add permissions. Okay, I can assign him view permission. I can assign him edit permission, meaning the user can change. I can assign print permission, meaning the user can print. and copy paste, which means obviously also copy paste, but also in some applications, copy paste also limits the ability to take screen captures and do web access, for example. I can assign Rui Bernardino the ability to add users, which is a delegation mechanism, meaning I grant Rui the ability to include additional users into this policy, but only with the permissions that I assign him, okay, or less. And then we have full control. Full control is, of course, all of the above, but also the ability to take out the protection. So without full control, users cannot unprotect the files, okay? When I add the user to the policy, as soon as I save this policy, this will immediately apply to all the information that is or will be protected with this policy, regardless where it is, okay? So if you share a document with someone and that someone says to you, oh, okay, sorry, now I need to print or whatever, you can assign print later. You don't need to worry about getting the final policy when you start. No, any changes that you want to do in the future, you can do it, okay? So it's very powerful. And you can also remove users from here. So the way that you manage these policies, this again will apply regardless where the file is. Doesn't matter if it is your computer, my computer, or a mobile in China, it's all the same. We are not just limited to well-known users or AD users. Here you can type any kind of user, okay? So say that I want to share something with my personal email, okay? I can do exactly the same. And I don't need to concern or to worry if this user exists within the system or not. SealPath will also take care of this. This is done in a very simple and straightforward way. By the way, this behavior can be fine-tuned so that you limit who can engage or not. But in the end, if you go for full automated, this will trigger something like this, okay? This is the email that will be sent if the system detects that Rui Bernardino at Gmail is not yet known by the system. So this would be something that can be customized to have the logos of the company and all that, of course. But in the end, this is a very simple process for cloud provisioning. And this is sent only once. So once Rui Bernardino at Gmail clicks on continue, I will have be directed to this form where I would enter my password, and that's it, okay? I do this once, and from now on, I'm ready to access protected data as Rui Bernardino at Gmail, okay? So also here we can include further types of people, or let's say people. We can, for example, use wildcards. Here we have, for example, an example where I could say that all my company can do whatever, say edit, okay, and that's it, okay. Here, with a simple rule, I can define an internal policy. Documents with this specific policy would only be accessible by people within this domain, with accounts on this domain. I can also use domain integration, meaning that I can use 80 groups here. And of course, if I go for 80 users, this will be fully integrated into 80. Going a little bit further and quick overview here, we can set expiration date, which does pretty much the obvious. As before, I can change this date any point in time. So if I want to postpone a further week, no issues, okay, done, okay. You don't need to send the documents again. The documents are there and it's done, okay. No need to do anything. I can also allow offline access for some specific components. This system, because it responds in real time and we can apply these changes, of course, relies on communicating with the service. Sorry. But we can disable this for specific policies. So if you have that internal technical document that it's not so critical, yeah, okay, so I can allow offline for a number of days. And it's a mechanism that you can assign to specific information. I can also add a watermark. SealPath is not a classification solution, so we do not have actual watermarks. What we mean by watermark here is a marking that is displayed on some files, specifically PDFs and images, and only if the user wants, that will show what is the user that is accessing the data, okay? I'll show this in a demo, it's better. Okay, so here, last but not least, regarding this policy definition, and I can ensure this is the final step in policy definition. We can set who are the users that will be able to use this policy. And this comes into play when you define corporate policy. Say you have classification policy or a department policy, you can share policies with other users. There's no need for each user to be required to create their own policies. Here we actually have a further mechanism. Although I share with Andrew and with Anne, there's a further mechanism here because Andrew has full control over this, okay? And because Andrew has full control, this means that Andrew is actually able to tweak the policy. So if Andrew wants to add some other users or whatever, the Andrew can do it. This is a nice mechanism for delegation. Again, as a security admin, you could create some policies for the departments and then delegate the management of the policies to specific people. And that's a delegation mechanism, which is quite the case that we have here. So here, for example, we have this confidential, internal, secret, legal. All these are corporate policies. These are not corporate policies that were defined by me, okay? Well, but that's enough about policies. Let's have a quick view on how to protect data. And so I have some files here. Sorry, I need to disable this. I have some files here. These serve as an example. We don't have much time to go through all this, but let's move a little bit faster. Okay, so we can support any kind of file. Okay, that's one of the important things. And to protect the folder, there are multitude of ways. So I can, for example, drag and drop into this policy, RC project, and then you see that all the files are protected, okay? Again, the protection of SealPath does not rely on any specific storage, okay? So I have this on my computer, it could be on your computer, it could be on someone's mobile, doesn't matter, okay? So the protection itself always travels with the files. And protecting the files is just about as simple, drag and drop here, and it's the same. We can do this file by file, by drag and dropping. We can use right click to protect it, and everything works out the same. So I have ARC project, and there it is. This will protect the files, and the files are protected. I can also protect files directly from Outlook, from Word. I'm both thinking about the next step. So here we have this plugin that we install into Microsoft Office, and we can say that we want to protect with ARC project, okay? This will protect this file, and when the files are protected, they get this yellow ribbon. This yellow ribbon, by the way, is not done by our plugin. This is native to Office, and this is important because with Office files, we have built-in support for Office. The mechanism that is used by us, that does not require any specific agents on any specific plugins. The plugin is actually here, but it's not necessary for this specific use case. And that's actually the case that we have here. Actually the case that we have here. So on the top row, we have, if you notice the extensions, these were not changed. So every file kept the extensions. So these do not require an agent, which is very powerful. So you want to share a Word document with someone else or some data using a Excel or PowerPoint, just send it over, protect it and send it over. They will be able to access the file if they have Microsoft Office, not just on Windows, but also on iOS and Android and macOS. So the format itself is compatible. On the bottom row, we have other files like PDFs and text files, images. Those have different degrees of support in terms of DRM. I'm just going to show you a PDF. PDFs open on native, on whatever the user has defined. For example, here I have Foxit Reader. This would also work with the Adobe, will also work with Adobe Acrobat, the editor one. It would also work with Nitro. Any PDF viewer that supports DRM will support our product. And we can support just about any file type. For example, we have Visio. Visio is one of the examples that we called transparent encryption, because we do not enforce the full DRM here, because we don't have plugins for all applications, and it works in a slightly different way. Still, transparent encryption allows the data to be protected at rest and to be protected in motion. So we get both use cases. We just don't get protection in use, and that's the limitation here. But we'd also have support for CAD files and all that. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little trick, and I ask you to please bear with me. I'm going to switch user. So I'm now logged in as N, but I'm going to switch to Mark, and I'm going to switch to N. Okay. I need you to trust me when I say that although this is on my desktop, it will make no difference whatsoever if I open this somewhere else. Okay, it would be exactly the same. So whenever I open a file, and again, as a consumer, it's very easy. I simply need to do a click on the file, and there it is. Okay. I do have the plugin installed on this user, but again, I must enforce that this is not necessary to access this data. Okay, this specific file. Anyway, I do have permissions to edit the data and whatnot, but if I try to print, I cannot print. Let's check my permissions. So here in my permissions, I can see that I can view, edit, copy, I can save, but I cannot print, I cannot export. I cannot export. I wonder the user, okay, no, I want to save this as a CSV, right? I just want the numbers. I don't care about the graphics. I can do the graphics later. It's very easy. And let's do it. Let's do a very short, simple test and try to save this as another file on my desktop. But here, from the file types, you can see that some are missing. You are probably missing CSV and other, for example, open office formats. They are not here, okay? They are not available. Why? Because this user does not have the privileges to take out the protection. So all the files that I save here will still be protected. So as you can see, this other file is also protected. And this will occur regardless how many copies I do. If I upload to cloud, or if I send to SharePoint Online, or if I send to my mobile or USB, doesn't matter, okay? All the copies of the file will still be protected. They retain the icon. Just a quick overview of on the other formats, because we are running out of time. PDF files, just to show you how the watermarks will function. Okay, so this is what we mean by watermark. I'm not talking about proper watermark. This is just a deterrent, okay, for people to stop sharing the content. We all know that everyone nowadays carries a high-resolution camera on their pocket, so it's the spy dream made true, right? Anyone can take a very good photograph of the content. But here we have a mechanism that, I mean, it's not a bulletproof mechanism, but it does refrain users from sharing the document. Okay, it's a mechanism. Okay, we cannot prevent photographs. I mean, there probably are some technologies to do it, but it's not something that you can easily do. So this is a mechanism that at least will make them think twice. Will make the users think twice. Okay, so this is the protection of files. I could show you some other files, but we are really running out of time. I'm going to switch to a instead of switching around from user to user, I'm going to do a little trick here, and I'm going to open another component that we call Web Protector. So here, this is a web application, does not rely on plugins. Okay, this is a full web application that runs on the browser. Okay, and the idea is that this application mimics the same capabilities that we have here on the SealPath desktop. The difference here is that I'm logged in as Mark, okay, and not as N, okay? So here I'm the person that protected these files. Let's have a look of what we have here. Again, this is available also here if I switch user. I just want to make it a little bit simpler. So if I click here on documents, and I can protect and do a lot of stuff, but if I switch to documents, I have the documents that the last access is to documents. And you can see here, division cells, that Excel file that I opened as N, and there it is, okay, the audit information regarding this. And let's have a look at this. And again, please think that I could be running this anywhere, okay, and not on my browser here on my computer. Say that this was the wrong document that I wanted to send, okay? I'm going to lock it. If N, and now switching back to N, if N tries to access the exact same document, and this happens instantly, I cannot access the document. But N was smart, right? N copied the file to other locations, right? But all the files will be the same. So when the creator or an admin blocked this file, it blocked access to the file regardless where it is, okay? And this is one of the important features of SealPath. With the same ease, I can unlock the file. And if I double click on the file, now the file is available again. Okay, it's very simple and very powerful, and it's quite I think it's quite a very strong use case. Say for example that N can actually access the file, but instead of edit, N can print and not edit. Okay, if I save these changes again on my browser, regardless where I am, and if I open the exact same file, now I cannot save, but I can print. Okay, so this kind of power that you get to control over your data as a user that protects it, or as an admin that can manage all this on the console, I think it's something that is, I mean, very powerful in terms of what you can do and the kind of control that you get over information. And of course, here you get not just the accesses, but also the attempts to access the data. So all these attempts that Anne performed on the data, on the intents to open the data, will be also managed here as an end user. Again, this would also be, of course, possible if I just use this the desktop, but this is just another way of showing it. We are really running out of time, so I would just
don't worry, Rui. If we are going out of the time for a couple of minutes, don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. No, I'm just going to go a very quick overview of some capabilities that we have as an admin, because I mean we are not just concerned with our data, we are also concerned with other data.
I think I lose you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, let me show you something that I missed. I forgot to mention. Okay, so switching to Mark Eldrin. Okay, I forgot to mention a very important use case, which is the case where you want to protect data, but the users don't care, right? I mean, why bother, right? You don't need to rely on the end users to protect data, and this is a very important case. The SealPath can do protection in an automated way, and we have support for several use cases. The simplest one is this one. So I have this folder that contains secret files, okay? And if I copy a file or move a file into this folder, it is automatically protected, okay? I don't need to do anything, okay? It just takes a couple of seconds and the file is automatically protected. This is the mechanism for the end user, but this would also be available for file servers. With DLP integration, with Exchange, we are working on a mail relay integration, a generic mail relay integration. On SharePoint Online, which would grant us the ability to automatically protect OneDrive folders, Team folders, SharePoint Online, Office 365, SharePoint on premises. We integrate with Alfresco, we integrate with file servers on the network, local folders, so we can place automatic protection wherever we need it. Okay. Also, it's possible to integrate with Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, all those different cloud services. We can have integration with those, meaning that you do not rely on the users to actually be the agents to apply the protection. This is a very important use case. Also, with DLP, we integrate with Symantec, ForcePoint, and McAfee, meaning that you can create rules within those DLPs that will automatically apply the protection if they detect some kind of, say, confidential information. We also have integration with classification, meaning if you have, I mentioned this before, but if you have something like bold and James or titles or even AIP, you can automatically apply a protection based on the classification and have that last mile. A very quick overview of the console, because we are really running out of time, but the console is, I mean, this is a web console. Now I'm logged in as Andrew, and I have the exact same information that you'd expect for an admin, okay? For an admin, I have the exact same information, for example, regarding the file that Ann Becker was just attempting to open. I can block the file from here as an admin, say something went wrong and Mark is no longer in the company or whatever, I can block access here. I can also have the tracking information. I can have statistics on the file. I can have alerts that were issued for this specific file. I can forward this data to a CM. So if I want to correlate this with other information using, for example, Splunk, ArcSight, or QRadar, or whatever, I can integrate with those. I can manage all the different protections here. We have corporate protections and user protections, but which are about the same. It's just who sets them that is different. But here, for example, I can edit this ARC project, the same policy that Mark was playing with, and I can change the permissions from here. Okay, I don't need to rely on Mark being in the company to do this. As an admin, I have some further options regarding from what network the users need to connect and stuff like that. These are specific to the user. On the administration, I have some further options. I can transfer permissions from a user to another. Of course, with AD, we can use groups, but this is a mechanism that works for everyone. I can define the IP ranges. I can block access to specific users. I have audit information regarding what the admins do, okay? What are the admins doing on the system? I can enable the super user mode. Super user mode is a mechanism that creates a temporary user that can unprotect everything. Okay, it's a mechanism. If you have a bunch of different files that were protected with different policies, then you can use here this